I did, and it made me happy.
No, it's you can put it What's that?
I feel like that's my argument with my medical provider. Experience. I am not giving it up.
No, I was like, Yeah.
Meeting called to order at 7 p.m. Call the roll.
Trustee Carey,
Here.
trustee Haig,
Here.
trustee Hall.
Here.
Trustee Hirschbein,
Here.
trustee Pini,
Here.
trustee Tarnow,
Here.
president Kubiak.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay. Tonight we have a public comment from Debbie Edgar. Debbie, if you want to come up to the podium, state your name and your address.
My name's Debbie Edgar. I live at 21 Boathouse Road. Okay, my comment is Highland Avenue. My house backs up to Highland Avenue, and since it's been paved, it's creating a lot of issues back there. People are speeding on that road. I wrote an email to Andy and voiced my concerns about it. People, they don't pay attention to the people that are walking on the road. There's no sidewalk. There's people that are biking, walking, skateboarding, and they drive very close to the pedestrians. They don't slow down. I was on the road walking the other day and somebody came down 75 miles an hour. Just, I know you put those signs up to try to track to see slow down, but does that gather any data? Does that tell you how many people are speeding?
Yes,
Okay.
actually it does, ma'am.
Yeah,
So we put speed trailers on the roadway and the average speed was around 35 miles an hour, which is probably 5 miles over the posted speed limit that the city of Elgin put down there, because it's not ours.
yeah,
These cars are only going faster because you believe if you're standing still, a 30-mile-an-hour vehicle does move a lot faster. The cars, if they are speeding, it's only a few miles over. There is no sidewalk, there are no curbs. It is the city of Elgin roadway. We're out there, but unless we're actually physically seeing the vehicles, there's no way to actually stop or sight them. But the cars are going there. We put them out there multiple times, and I did submit the data to the village. That's how we know it's about 35 miles an hour is the average speed that goes down there. There are a few outliers that will go a little bit faster. That road is not for pedestrian traffic. It is still a roadway, and pedestrians should not be on the roadway. There is no sidewalk or anything out there. There are, like I said, there are no curbs. That's just going to be something that until either the city of Elgin grants us that roadway or we take it over, that there's no way for us really to do anything for pedestrian traffic unless we put in something else.
well, you're not gonna stop the pedestrians from going on there because they're on there every single day. I see it. I've lived there for 7 years and like I said, my yard backs up to it and I watch it constantly. It's, people are always speeding on that road. So I know that you don't own it, but we did pave it, right? We did, Buffalo, Pingree Grove did pay to pave the road. And, the only suggestion, that you're not gonna be able to slow people down, but my only suggestion was to put a couple speed bumps on the road. And that's gonna slow people down. I mean, people use it for, a thoroughway to get back and forth, and they go fast on it. And if there were some speed bumps, they might think twice about using that road to do that.
So for speed bumps, I can direct you to Director Doherty. He'll explain about speed bumps, and I don't believe we plow that road, do we, Pat?
No.
No, so we wouldn't plow that road. It wouldn't be for us, but when you put speed bumps on a roadway, the plows that are down when they're gonna be shoveling snow, that interferes with that. And it's gonna cause more damage to the roadway than it is. Again, it is not the Village of Pingree Grove's roadway. We did pave it. Yes, that was a decision made by the village board. We are working with Elgin. I can put the signs back out there again. They say slow down. But even if there is case law that says because it is not our roadway, in order for us to actually stop a vehicle, we have to be moving. We cannot be stationary. Because there's a case out of Sleepy Hollow from the 90s that says that we cannot run a stationary radar. But if we are driving down there and we happen to see it, we can pull a vehicle over and we can cite them by state law. So we are doing our best to check that little bit of roadway. I know it's only about maybe 1,000 feet or whatever it is. But we're checking it when we can, and we can put up signs again to deter them. But your concern needs to go to the city of Elgin, unfortunately. And that's the correct way of doing it. We will keep an eye on it, though.
Okay,
I'll also just say, we periodically will communicate with Elgin regarding a variety of issues. Next time we do meet with them, I already actually have it on our list to go over Highland, if there's anything they think they can do, and to try to continue to have that conversation.
because they just raised the speed limit. It used to be 15 one way and 20 the other way, and now they raised it to 30 both ways. So I just, I'm just afraid somebody's gonna get killed. It's gonna happen sooner or later, because people are always driving very close to the pedestrians. And there's people up there, I mean, now it's getting cold out, there's not, but all summer long, there's people up there constantly walking, and kids on bikes and skateboards. And I'm just afraid something's gonna happen. I mean, I sit out on my deck, I see it every single day. So that's just what my concern is about it. That they're not gonna slow down unless something slows them down. And the machine that you put out, when people see that and they start approaching it, they're gonna slow down because of the machine. I don't know how far that tracks out. I mean, the data that you're collecting, how far, when the car is approaching and they'd slow down before they get to that machine, that's tracking how fast they're going. Because you're saying that only, a few people are on the outliers, which that's not what I see visually.
Again, it does look differently when you're standing still or sitting on your porch for a vehicle going by versus actually being in a vehicle going 30 miles an hour. There's a lot of statistics, and if you want to talk after the meeting, I'd be more than willing to talk to you about it. This is something actually I am pretty proficient in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move into a special presentation. Tonight, we have the Cambridge Lakes Charter School here. If you guys want to come up.
Good evening, President Kubiak and members of the Pingree Grove Board of Trustees and Village Administrators. First of all, thank you for allowing time on your agenda for us to share some good news out of Cambridge Lakes Charter School. My name is Dr. Brett Bending, and I have the honor of being the principal of our upper school. And tonight we want to recognize recent achievements from both our students and staff. Cambridge Lakes Charter School is proud to announce that 2 of our high school academy students were recognized for their photography skills by the Kane County Regional Office of Education. The ROE held a photography contest open to all high school students across the entire county over the course of 10 weeks. Each week of the contest had a different theme. During week 1 of the contest, the theme was texture, and our very own Emily McLaren, a sophomore student at Cambridge Lakes Academy, had her picture selected as a winner. During week 5, the contest theme was action and adventure. Sophomore student Camden Karlowski's picture was selected as a winner as well. Both students, along with their art teacher, Mrs. Marissa Choate, were recognized at a special reception last Thursday evening in Batavia, hosted by the Kane County Regional Office of Education. In the world of middle school athletics, I would like to introduce some members of our cross-country team to you tonight on behalf of their coach, Derek Bradbury, and our athletic director, Laura Gugi. Student athletes, if you're in the audience, please stand. This season was truly outstanding for our cross-country team. We witnessed several new runs past expectations, and seasoned veterans achieve their ultimate goal of qualifying for the state competition. Throughout the season, many of our runners earned ribbons and medals by placing in various races, testament to their dedication. Securing first place in our conference, and at sectional, shown through again as they placed second overall in the section and earning a well-deserved qualification to the state finals. Our top 8th grade female athlete this year, Eliana Hernandez, placed top 15 in the conference and was also a state qualifier. Our 8th grade boys consisted of Liam Corsaro, Giovanni Salgado, Kyle Arndt, Eli Cicluna, Eric Daje, Noah Hernandez, Daniel Salgado, Chivdimbui Akachukuwu, Sawyer Schmidt, and Adam Acevedo. It was an incredible season filled with achievements and growth. Congratulations. And then finally, it is an honor to recognize one of our upper school science teachers, Mrs. Rachel Kurtz, who is here in the audience. The Illinois Science Teaching Association selected our very own Rachel Kurtz as a winner of the 2024 ISTA Middle School Educator Award. On October 14th, 2024, at the Northern Illinois University Naperville campus, the Illinois Science Teaching Association recognized Rachel as one of the best middle school science teachers in the state at their annual membership conference. This is a great achievement for Rachel, our students, and our school. We are very proud of her and all that she does for our school. Thank you, Village of Pingree Grove, for allowing us to share our good news and celebrations with you this evening.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Congratulations to all of you. All right, we're going to move into the consent agenda now. Tonight, we have the approval of minutes from the village board meeting of December 2nd, 2024. The approval of minutes from the executive session of November 18th, 2024 is reviewed during closed session on December 2nd, 2024. The approval of the warrant list from December 16th, 2024 in the amount of $464,193.91. The consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the release of certain executive session minutes and the destruction of verbatim recordings. The approval of resolution authorizing pay application number 14 for wastewater treatment plant improvements project in the amount of $2,672,041.31. And the consideration and approval of an ordinance accepting an assignment of a real estate contract in the village of Pingree Grove, Kane County, Illinois. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Tarnow,
Yes.
trustee Pini,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein,
Yes.
trustee Carey,
Yes.
trustee Hall,
Yes.
trustee Haig.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, next we have our items for separate action tonight. The first item is item A, consideration and approval of it to authorize the village manager to enter into a master services agreement with Rent Fund for kayak rental services in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for the provision of a kayak rental services station. Andy?
Yes, Laura, I'll let you take the lead on this one, and we'll
Okay.
start with that.
Okay, thank you. So this item is a continuation from our November 18th board meeting discussions, where the board sought clarification on the rental cost options for the kayak rental service system, as well as language in the master services agreement as it pertained to legal jurisdiction of Illinois versus Michigan. We did speak with the representatives from Rent Fund Inc. or LLC rather, and they did provide us with different rental rate options that are available to the board for consideration. The first one would be a rental for the end user for $15 for 1 hour rental. Then it would be $5 for each 30-minute increment thereafter, with a 3-hour maximum rental, with the total cost to the end user of $35 should they choose to do the maximum rental. The second option would be, for the gross rental revenue that the village would have an option to receive under that rental agreement would be 30% of the gross rental revenue, which would consist of $10.50 for the total 3-hour maximum rental option for the end user. Secondly, the village could choose for a $25 for a 1-hour rental to the end user, with $10 for each 30-minute increment thereafter, with the total of $65 for the end user for a 3-hour maximum. The village's gross revenue would be 50% at that option for a total of $32.50 per rental of 3-hour maximum. And lastly, an option could be $9 for 1-hour rental, then $5 for each 30-minute increment thereafter. If the village chose to go that route, we would not receive any type of revenue from that rental, and that would be a $29 maximum rental to the end user for 3 hours. I would like to, if I can, recap what the program consists of for the village. It would be the installation of a 10-foot by 3.5-foot 4-unit locker, which would consist of a locker, 4 units up. It would have a kayak, a 1 single-person kayak, a life vest, and paddles. The locker would be placed at by the second ball field and near the outskirts of the ball field at Complex 3 Pond for a rental season of April 1st to October 31st from dawn to dusk. Of course, we could have the choice of doing any type of rental extension of dates and times and so forth. The rentals would be available to individuals 18 years of older or older. And the agreement itself would be through the individual end user and Rent Fund directly. The agreement would not be signed with the village. And the agreement for the service agreement would be a 5-year agreement with the village, and with the cost of $20,000 for an initial activation fee. And if there's any questions?
And I'll just speak for myself on this, that I have no interest in this becoming a revenue generator for the village. I think that I would like to see it to be at a lower cost, and this just brings a new fun amenity for the village, so.
I agree with Joe. I know I don't have a vote, but I agree with Joe on this.
I'm with Joe as well. And actually, if we do, I'm sure we won't get to the 20,000 by the end of the 5 years, but if we go into the next 5 years, maybe putting something on there that once we reach 20,000, we just take it back to zero, like $9, unless there's some kind of maintenance cost that we need to.
Excuse me, it's a $20,000 activation fee for us to get the equipment.
Right.
And once the 5 years is over, that's it. If we chose to continue it, there's not another 20,000. It's a one-time fee, regardless if we went 5 years.
I'm just saying, if we make 5,000 a year or whatever, and then once we hit 20, just go to zero. If there's a way to calculate that, unless, like I said, if there's some kind of maintenance fee for Pat to mow down there or whatever we got to do to.
Luke, I think I know what you're saying, but I think they're gonna still be charging their fee regardless.
Right. I'm just saying we start at the $15
Oh,
and then go to the 9. Is that what you were saying, Joe? Or you want to go straight to the 9?
Whatever is the less cost for residents.
Okay. Well,
So
then I'm
it
with you.
appears
Either
that
or,
the
I don't
one-
care, I guess.
It looks like number 3 is the less for residents, where the village wouldn't be generating any revenue from that.
Okay. I could do that too.
Does anyone have any other comments? If not, can I get a motion?
Really quick before the motion is made, just for clarification, this is a motion to recommend approval as stipulated here with the option number 3. price rental.
Pat, where we're putting this, is that replacing those garbage cans?
We're gonna slide everything down a little bit too. Our plan next year is to put the garbage cans on the curb and maybe do a joint. On the backside of the can enclosure would be this.
Is that pad large enough the way it's,
It
May now.
it could accommodate this right now, I believe. But
okay,
like I said, I'd like to move everything further down away from the events that we host there in that area, closer to the curb, and then that way the garbage cans are already in a corral right at the curb for the garbage guys later.
okay, thanks.
I move to authorize the village manager to enter into a master service agreement with Rent.Fun LLC in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for the provision of a kayak rental service station utilizing option number 3 as listed.
Second.
Call the roll.
I'm sorry, that was trustee Haig? For a second?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, trustee Pini,
Yes.
trustee Charnow,
Yes.
trustee Hall,
Yes,
trustee Carey,
No.
trustee Haig,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Item B is the consideration and approval to authorize the purchase of a blinking pedestrian crossing signage. Pat?
This is again to try out a set of signs at Highland and Rhine King Road. To assist with pedestrian crossing there. There's 2 options presented. On this, I personally don't think the one-sided signs are enough. I don't think the cars are gonna acknowledge these signs either way, but if it was me, I would go with the double blinkers so that both signs on both sides of the road blink, both directions. Cars today are not worried about pedestrians. But if you wanted to try this, the pricing is included, enclosed. My worry though is if we do one and there's an accident in another, an attorney somewhere along the line is gonna say, why did you pick this one and not that one? And there are many other intersections that we have these signs at. I know it's not everybody else's worry, but somewhere along the line, I believe that will happen.
Can we get any additional input from either our council or chief?
I've actually seen these roads, or these signs actually used up in northern Wisconsin. They're for roadways that have through traffic, kind of like what we have at, as Director Doherty has said, like 11 other places throughout town. Just so you know, we've never had a pedestrian crash, knock on wood, please. And that was one of the things that stopped me from looking for grants for this. In order to get a grant for it, you have to have like 17 fatals in order to actually be qualified for this.
Did
So-
you say 17?
17
Fatals?
fatals.
Wow.
And that's when I shut it down and said, yeah, okay. Do I think it's a good idea to have the pedestrian signs up? Yes. Does it really help with the light up signs at nighttime? Yes. I'm not sure about the pedestrian traffic at night. During the daytime, they do light up. As it's been said that most people don't pay attention when they drive anyway, so are they gonna see it? Trying it at one intersection to see how it goes. I'm not sure if I've ever counted the pedestrian traffic that crosses Highland Avenue, being that there's only one sidewalk that runs north and south. But if we're going to do it, we can. We now have pedestrian signs at every intersection that we have, they just don't blink. And at this time, that has been working well enough. But what is well enough when as Director Doherty said, something happens, then we have to deal with it. If we're gonna do a trial, we try one and see how it goes, and then we can maybe adjust throughout the years and add one every year or add 2 or something like that, if we find it necessary.
Michael, you and I have discussed this a little bit. Can you comment on the legal aspect?
Yes, so we researched this issue going back a little while when we looked at this the first time, and we were unable to find any case that stands for the proposition where if you make an improvement to one intersection and don't make it for another intersection, you could be liable if there's an accident at the latter intersections. However, I'm cognizant of Pat's thoughts on this, and that is, one, someone at some point is going to try this theory. And then two, as I've pointed out in other contexts, judges are human. When there's a tragedy, particularly if someone experiences a severe injury where it takes a lot of money as compared to a death, there's a lot of sympathy. And even if the judge doesn't recognize that cause of action, the judge may steer the village toward a settlement to try to alleviate that suffering, just out of a sense of sympathy or whatnot. So what you don't hear me is guaranteeing or predicting the future that no plaintiff's attorney will ever try that theory. It has not worked before. It hasn't been recognized, but I certainly can't make that guarantee in the future.
Michael, to play devil's advocate, couldn't the same attorney fight the village wasn't doing enough to protect the pedestrians crossing the street? I mean, we could go back and forth all day long.
Yeah, and there is tort immunity. There are exceptions. I don't think those exceptions would apply here. For example, one of the sections in the Tort Immunity Act is where the village board makes a discretionary decision. So, for example, in the context of earlier, we approved, or there was a recommendation to approve a plat of consolidation to enhance the development. And say that that led to flooding because there was improper stormwater drainage, just the theoretical. We're not liable for making that decision. It's a discretionary decision. But again, when I think there's extreme circumstances, someone's a victim, where there's huge medical costs in the future for someone who's been hurt, severely hurt, there is sympathy. So do I think that the tort immunity would outweigh the sense of fairness or sympathy by a judge? Yes, I do. But I can't rule that out. We've had a situation before with litigation where we also decided it's worth settling given the potential cost of the village.
On the engineering side of things, as far as consideration between option one and option two, just wanted to point out the fact that we recently completed a Safe Routes to School design project where we implemented these exact same signs, and option two was the preference of IDOT. So if that has any bearing on your decision between one and two, just wanted to provide that for context.
And again, tonight we did have a resident who lives back on the back in that neck of the woods. There are pedestrians as we're trying to hopefully develop the ranking with the Heritage District, with the library. There's another means to get those residents across the street. So I really think that this should be at least like the chief had mentioned, a testing point, see how this works, and we can evaluate moving forward.
Thing is, we just stated that people shouldn't be using Highland to walk on, yet we want to make a path so they can cross it.
The sidewalk runs all the way down Highland and dead ends at, or down Ranking and dead ends at Highland. There's nowhere for people to go once they reach Highland on Ranking.
It's this road, it's right here.
Pat, can you refresh my memory? I know we talked about this at a previous meeting, and you said you helped install these signs over at Carillon.
Yes.
And people were driving right
I
through.
installed these in Carillon, and they had the pedestrian state law crossing sign in the middle of the street. 13 out of 14 times cars didn't stop while I was trying to set the timing up because it was a long way to get across. Didn't stop for me, just kept right on going. I really feel like the drivers need to be re-educated. Something happened after COVID and people just don't care. Now, I think the signs will help there. it's not the money for me. I can put them up. They're not gonna last forever. That's fine, but there's also a safe place to cross at the four-way intersection, potentially, but I've seen people whiz right through that too and not stop at the stop signs. Anything's possible anywhere. But if you're gonna go with it because there's a left turn lane there and people turning left are looking to the left, maybe not the right, that's why I'm recommending go with the double-sided signs. The one estimate is just a couple of bucks higher than the same company single-sided. And that way, if they're looking to the left, they see lights flashing on the left and the right. And it gives a little bit, they'll hopefully alert the motorists more. But for me, it's not about the money, but what I worry is I have other intersections where people have asked for these signs in town, and be prepared because I'm coming back then to ask to put them at other intersections.
I feel like we're almost creating a problem that we don't have. Yeah, I mean, granted, I mean, somebody could hit it with the blinky, then what's next? We put the flashlight thing down there and we pay $20,000 for a sign. It's a fact. I mean, if you're around cars, kids, young people crossing the road, I mean, all you can do is put a sign up. I mean, and hope that people drive normal, you know. Unfortunately, like Pat said, I mean, people drive nuts nowadays. And it's just, I don't want to pay $100,000 for signs, because once we do one, we are going to have to do them all eventually.
How many intersections are there, Pat?
There's 11 right now, and then in Cambridge Lakes North too, there's quite a few more. I don't have a full count, but they've already started installing these signs to match what we've installed, like on Daniel Boulevard. I saw a couple up on Providence.
And if I'm correct, all those roads would be 25 miles an hour?
That is correct.
Okay,
The only
so-
30-mile-an-hour road in the town is Rhine King Road that we own and control, and it's only certain sections. Coming south of Wester down to the roundabout is 25 miles an hour because there's residential driveways on that. But Wester to all the way up to Gobert's is 30.
Yeah.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with trustee Hall on this one, actually. Like I said, I've seen these signs work, and that's when I actually thought of it and I started looking into it, 'cause I thought it was neat, but it was on a darker roadway with no lights, no sidewalks or anything like that. Again, it was up in northern Wisconsin. I'm like, wow, that's really nice when I'm crossing the road at night. During the daytime, they can still be ignored, but it's whatever the board decides what they want to do.
Have there been any other, like not fatality, but any pedestrian accidents at this intersection right here?
No, we did a study to make sure that there was nothing at this, because this isn't the first time this conversations came up. And it started with no signs, and then we put signs in that just a couple of years ago, right there.
The first location I did signs was actually in Parkside, but someone was complaining here too. So I put them up at these neighborhoods, at these two, but then I went through every other intersection in town. Again, I try to treat everybody equal, and I don't want, it's just money. And I don't want someone getting hurt at another intersection because we didn't treat every intersection equal in town. Again, if you want the signs, I have no problem putting them up, but they don't last forever, number one, and there's gonna be other locations. But I'm happy to do it. It's just, I'm not sure drivers are ready to wake up yet.
Chief, Pat had mentioned that he notices vehicles not obeying the signage. How many roughly of these complaints are forwarded to you, and how many are followed up on to see if these are actually bona fide?
The police department hasn't really received any complaints of pedestrian walking problems, crossing roadways where these signs would be used at. The only area which is in somewhat question is around the school area, where they have crossing guards out there for people that are moving. We have not, and when we do have issues regarding traffic, we send somebody out there and we do enforce and we run it, but we've never really seen anybody. And this hasn't really been huge development as of now. The Highland Avenue has been brought up many times due to the fact that we have the Catamaran and the Anchorage homes that are over there, because that is their only exit out that direction. And we were talking about getting them over from that area over, as trustee Peony said, to the walkway that continues south on Rankin Road, because there is not a path south of Rankin Road the other way due to the fact that we don't own the property across the street. So if we were going to do one, this would be a good one to at least try and see how it is, but there's nowhere else in town that it's actually been brought to our attention that is a problem area. Otherwise, we would have addressed it then.
I don't understand how we measure this. Like you said, we haven't had any accidents, nobody's been hit.
Right.
Just to see how it goes, I don't know what that means for an intersection that's had no problems. Oh, I do agree it is highly trafficked. I do agree with trustee Peony on that. Nothing's happened and
I think,
I don't.
if I could interrupt, I think many residents, the ones that have called in and talked to me personally, are worried and afraid for various reasons. And, the cars aren't slowing down. It doesn't seem like they want to stop. And again, it is the law when someone's walking in the intersection for them to stop and let that person cross. This is a midsection crosswalk, but the roundabout, when you're in the roundabout, you have the right of way, but there are drivers that just zip right through and will hit you if you don't stop. And it bothers me when someone stops in front of me in the roundabout because they shouldn't be doing that, but I get it. People are worried. Everybody has a different degree of what's safe or not safe. And I don't want to see anybody get hit by a car, but I'm not sure the lights or the lack thereof is going to prevent that, unfortunately.
There's been no, even with the roundabouts though, the crashes that we're having with the roundabout has nothing to do with people coming in and out of it. It's people going through it. I think that I'm pretty confident of saying that. You can go out there and look at it. But Director Doherty's right that traffic, unfortunately, you have to say that, yes, drivers today are not like they used to be, and they do not pay attention with the electronics and everything else in the car, playing on their phones. But pedestrians do have the right of way when they're in traffic, when they're in a properly marked crosswalk, not just walking down a road as we described earlier, because there's actually state law that says pedestrians shouldn't be on a roadway. But there is no sidewalk that goes down Highland Avenue, so them being on the road is safer for them to walk without breaking an ankle or anything. But we don't have that concern with anywhere else in town because there are bike paths, there are sidewalks, there are curbs. So that would help.
Chief, you know that trustee Haag and I walk on Highland Avenue every day, right?
Well,
I mean, it's easy to say like you can't walk on that road, but if you live in that neighborhood, that's your only way around. I
Sure.
also recognize it's Elgin's road, so it's something we need to approach with Elgin, which Andy and I will work on.
It's not that we're against anything on that roadway. We're just looking at the logistics of it all.
I don't know, what's everybody's thoughts on this? Let's go down the line, see where everybody stands. Trustee Peony, what do you think?
Again, I'm looking at the money that we're looking at and sinking into the Heritage District, the park that we're looking at getting going in the Pingree Grove Forest Preserve. I'm looking at the library that we're looking to develop. We have our new municipal complex here. We should make it as easy as possible for people to get to this part of town as safely as possible by telling a resident like the one that came tonight that she needs to walk 500 feet down the road, cross, and then walk 500 feet down to get to the same point she would have been if she just crossed the street. Again, these are meant to give to hopefully catch someone's attention. Again, it's up to the person to make eye contact to make sure the person actually, just like a stop sign, that they're actually slowing down or stopping. But again, I have been in the area. I have witnessed that people waiting there for a lengthy period of time in order to cross because people aren't paying attention that there's someone outside the road. When you get these lights, yes, it does. And again, just like Michael had indicated, there's nothing that says that we have to do this for every intersection. Sometimes you need to tell people no, we need to look into it a little further. The money we're investing in this part of town, we want to allow residents to get to this part of town as safely as possible, should be considered.
Trustee Carey?
I think I respect all of Kevin's points, and I generally think I'm probably one of the more risk adverse people. But I do kind of agree that we are addressing a problem that there's no evidence exists. And I do think that once we put one up, I have some legal concerns about needing to put them up every place else. And I think that the more important factor is that there is no evidence that there is any sort of dangerous intersection there. And a lot of the points that trustee Pini is raising are very valid, but I think they're future points. And I don't know why we can't address this if the library is built, when there's more business in their heritage district. I think I've just maybe push it down the road a little further.
Okay. Trustee Hirschbein?
I'll agree with trustee Carey's statement.
Trustee Hall?
Yeah, I'm with trustee Carey that if and when everything's built up, if it becomes an issue, especially since these don't last forever, why not make that investment or whatever when it's time, if it's time.
Okay. Trustee Heck?
I agree with the intelligent Luke Hall.
Okay. Trustee Tarno?
I agree, and I look at it, we can only be worse. We've had no accidents. We put a sign up and somebody gets hit, then it's, oh, since you put the sign up, we've had an accident. You know, it can only go bad. It can't be good.
It's only going one way, right?
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate and respect your comments. How do we?
Michael, what do you think is easiest? Just to vote, just to do a motion in favor and vote no, if they want to vote no, or?
There is no motion on the floor. It dies for lack of someone making the motion, and it doesn't preclude the board from, of course, picking this up in the future. If the need arises, if there is evidence that accumulates that we feel that action is needed.
All right, we'll hold on to that one for later then. Okay, item C is the consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the release of bonds and acceptance of public improvements in neighborhoods 33, 27, and 29, lots 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16. Nick, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, certainly. As the village board is aware, D.R. Horton is in the process of constructing numerous residential neighborhoods throughout the village. When a phase of work is initiated, performance security in the form of bonds are issued. Upon the completion of the construction, the village engineers conduct a punch list inspection of the area and work with D.R. Horton to resolve any outstanding issues. Once all of the items are addressed and final inspections occur, the public improvements can be accepted by the village. Once the improvements are accepted, the village will reduce or release the bonds for them. The bonds for release on tonight's agenda are for improvements in neighborhoods outside of CLN 2. As President Kubiak stated, that would be neighborhood 33, neighborhood 27, and 6 lots throughout neighborhood 29. The outstanding bonds for neighborhoods 33 and 27 are maintenance bonds that have been in place since construction and the original reduction of the performance bonds. The outstanding bonds for the lots within neighborhood 29 are performance bonds, which were requested when the majority of the neighborhood was completed to ensure parkway improvements were completed. The village engineers have completed their punch list inspections on neighborhood 33, neighborhood 27, and lots 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16 in neighborhood 29, and certify that all punch list items are corrected. Included with the memo are the 3 certification letters from Fairgram regarding those bonds. Staff is recommending the approval of the resolution to release the bonds. And with that, I will open it up to any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions or comments? This is kind of a housekeeping item. Not much we can do here other than approve. Luke, what do you have for us?
Seth, when's the last time that you guys checked on this punch? These are older neighborhoods, right? So when was the last time you guys checked on these punch lists?
Yeah, so this was, let me look, it's in our letter. We walked these on November 7th, these 3 neighborhoods, and in neighborhood 29, the 6 lots. Pat and I drove them just to verify that all of the outstanding items were completed. So a lot of these are, like I have a note here, the neighborhood 27 maintenance bond was from December of 2019. 29's, those 6 were from August of 2021, and neighborhood 33's was from June of 2021. So we just revisited those to make sure they had the punch list work completed this year.
Okay, so like if something comes up in 2019, you guys check it again and 4 years later, even though I feel like this should have been done. I'm not sure how the timing goes with.
No, we had punch lists from the initial reduction, right? So then, once we get notified by the developer that those have been completed, we'll go revisit. If there's any outstanding stuff, we just issue the same comments back to finish those items.
Okay.
Once everything's done, we'll move to do what we're doing here.
Okay, thank
One
you.
other clarification, if they don't contact us and tell them that they're ready to turn over, we just let them sit.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering if like these guys,
And
the punch list got approved back last June and now here we are 6 months later, maybe something else came up, but.
And sometimes other stuff does come up. In the case of neighborhood 33, there was a sinkhole at one of the intersections, and it turned out Nicor drilled through the storm catch basin in the initial drive-through. They drilled through the storm sewer pipe. Horton had to fix that.
Okay.
In conjunction with Nicor. So because we waited longer and didn't push them to turn it over completely, we got some other stuff fixed that we would have had to deal with.
Nice.
But yes, Luke, to your point, the punch list actually is completed and that releases the performance bond, the original performance bond. And then what's put in place after the release of the performance bond is the maintenance bond, which is what we're dealing with here. A lot of times, to Amber's point, this is really more of a housekeeping item. Those maintenance bonds really should have been released some time ago, but like Pat said, until they're really requested for release, we continue to keep them in place.
Okay, well, that's good. I move, does anybody else got anything? Probably not, right? I move to approve the resolution authorizing a release of bonds and acceptance of public improvements for neighborhood 33, neighborhood 27, and neighborhood 29, lots 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Carey,
Yes.
trustee Haig,
Yes.
trustee Pini,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein,
Yes.
trustee Charno,
Yes.
trustee Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on, item D is the consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing an auditing services agreement with Lauterbach and Amann LLP. Albert, do you want to take this one?
Absolutely. The village is required to complete an annual audit, which produces an annual comprehensive financial report. At the last fiscal year end, our contract ran out with our auditing firm of Lauterbach and Amann. Per the instructions of the board, we were asked to put out a bid notice for proposals from firms. Staff put out a bid notice in November. Basically, I reached out to 8 different firms requesting proposal. We received 2, one from the current incumbent and then from another firm. Lauterbach and Amann's proposal came in at about $43,000 less over the length of the contract for 5 years. We've been with them for 15 years. They have institutional knowledge. It is staff's recommendation that the board approve renewing a new 5-year contract with our incumbent of Lauterbach and Amann. And with that, I'll take any questions. Both proposals are in the packet.
I read through the proposals, Albert. I just had a couple of questions. I see that their contract is of $143,800. What did we pay over the last 5 years total?
I don't have that number, but I could certainly get it. It's certainly less than the current proposal. The incentive here is they are charging us for next year's audit the same rate that we paid for this last fiscal year, which is, that's a nice sweetener. Also, the escalator is only 3% per year. The other firm, the escalator was at 4%.
What was their escalator over the last couple of years from Lauterbach and Amann?
Probably same thing.
They've kind of held
Yes.
What I'm getting at here is, have they held their costs, or because we went out to bid, did they come in slightly lower than they might have if we didn't go out to bid?
So before we went out to bid, they presented a proposal to me. It was the same proposal that they did during the bid process.
Does anyone have any other questions? If
Do you-
not, can I get a motion?
Do you work with the same people every year?
So the audit staff changes every single year. Their staff, they bring in people that are, whether they're interns or new staff. The partners, the managers are the same. What they usually do, what most audit firms do, is they change partners upon request just so we have a set, it's the same firm, but a different set of eyes looking at our particular audit.
Yeah.
That's kind of the standard practice in most firms. And
Yeah.
I've worked with personnel with both firms. Okay, they're both excellent personnel, good firms. Obviously, the cost is the big differential here.
Yeah, I just get worried when people get comfortable, you know.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea of like switching around and rotating partners and managers that look at it. I could have a conversation. If that is a concern to the board and we want to get a different set of eyes, I could certainly approach them and we could I'll have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just like new eyes, see new things kind of thing. You know, even if it's the same firm, I don't really care. It's just different people see different things.
Absolutely. That's the idea of rotating partners that oversee. And even with that, just the auditing firm goes through an extensive overview after the audit is done through their internal controls. So different partners look at the audit every single year.
Okay.
There's no more questions or comments. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve a resolution authorizing an auditing service agreement with Lauterbach and Amen LLP.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Hirschbein,
Yes.
trustee Haig,
Yes.
trustee Carey,
Yes.
trustee Charnow,
Yes.
trustee Feeny,
Yes.
trustee Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. Item E is the consideration and approval of an authorization of a master services agreement with Flock Safety for the purchase and installation of 14 automatic license plate reader cameras in an amount not to exceed $55,400. Chief, do you want to take this?
Sure. So this will be our third meeting in a row. We've had the discussion on this. We've talked about this in length. Manager Freeney and I both also spoke with one of their trustees who had some concerns. We hope we've kind of put all that to bed. The last thing I just want to add with this, that there is a transparency portion of this where there is something that we can actually place on our village website to show that it is not being abused by any way. And the audits of every quarterly plus a yearly audit will be involved and will be added to a yearly report. So the information will be out there to show that we are doing everything in our power to not go too far out of our control with this. With that, if anyone else has any questions, I can try to answer as much as I can. Flock is not here tonight. We didn't think that it was necessary for them to be here for this evening.
Are there any additional questions or concerns? I know we've spoke about this at length. If not, can I get a motion?
I move to approve a master services agreement with Flock Safety for the purchase and installation of 14 automatic license plate reader cameras in an amount not to exceed $55,400.
Second,
Call the roll.
trustee Haig,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein,
Yes.
trustee Charnow,
Yes.
trustee Feeny,
Yes.
trustee Hall,
Yes.
trustee Carey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 7F, which is the consideration and approval of an IDOT resolution for maintenance authorizing fiscal year 2026 motor fuel tax expenditures. Nick, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Another housekeeping item for the board this evening. Each year in which the village receives MFT funds, it must submit an IDOT resolution to the state that outlines how the funds will be spent. Like I said, this is a housekeeping item that the village does every fiscal year. In fiscal year 2026, which will be the fiscal year we enter into on May 1st of 2025, fiscal year 26, the village is projecting to spend approximately $782,500 in MFT funds. These funds can only be spent on items related to the construction and maintenance of roads and road-related items such as snow removal, salting and labor, pavement striping, street sign repairs, and road resurfacing. Staff is here to answer any questions that the board may have and recommends approval of the IDOT resolution.
I do have a question. Pat, you know, last year we had such a mild winter. It felt like we didn't use as much salt. I know you have to buy within a certain, but are we buying on the low end of salt this year?
So last year when we filled the bin, we met our minimum 80% threshold. I budget for 120. Hope to hit 80, just barely make it. But if we have a rough winter, I want to make sure we have enough salt to salt the town. And, we have had winters where we've had 20 some instances of salting, and we could easily go through the entire bin. But so when the number seems high, but we target a lot lower amount, and we've been hitting that amount every time.
So it's kind of like our tax levy, then we're levying high on the salt, but we're hoping to get.
Not use it. And again, a side note, we want to make the roads safe, but we don't want to use a lot because it goes into the ponds and creates dead zones in all the ponds. It's the impact. So, but yes, we try to always hit the low end, the 80%.
Did we have any left from last year?
Oh yeah, the bin is always full. So what we do is we enter into the season with the bin full. At the end of the season, I take my allotment and fill the bin back up for next year. Because we're the small guy, if we have a year like Snowmageddon, they don't want to deliver to us because Elgin goes through their entire bin in one storm or two storms. So they're turning that bin over where we can go a whole year.
The only other question I had was on the street signs. We have 250 signs allotted in here. What are those for?
When people run over signs, and most of the time we don't get a license plate or anything, it's just a broken sign that covers the sign post, the base if we need a new one, and the sign itself. That's some of the signs we replace. There are also signs that are fading. Some of the south signs that are 15 years old, we are starting to replace, especially stop signs. They have to meet minimum reflectivity standards. So an average sign, for example, a stop sign, by the time I do the base, the post, the cap, and the sign itself is about $300 per sign.
I can jump in on that one too. On that street sign in the breakdown, that's per square foot. So it's not 250 individual signs. That's just the pay item for the size of sign. That's how it's broken out there, not individual ones.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions or concerns? All right. If not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve an IDOT resolution for maintenance authorizing FY 2026 motor fuel tax expenditures.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Hall,
Yes.
trustee Haig,
Yes.
trustee Pini,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein,
Yes.
trustee Charno,
Yes.
trustee Carey. Yes. Thank you. Motion carries.
We're going to move on to reports. I'm up first. Andy, myself, and Pat met Seth and Fair Graham over at the APWA luncheon last Wednesday, and we got to meet Fair Graham's new president, Kyle. So that was a fun time. Then we went to the D300 Leadership Council, Chris and Andy and I. We have been busy with IDOT expansion meetings, and we did get some good news out of that this week. We found out that Route 47 is in fact already planned to be expanded and do phase 1 engineering starting in 2027. Andy, Nick, and myself will be working on a letter to IDOT expressing to them the concerns that we have about waiting till 2027 for Route 47 phase 1 engineering to start, because that'll put us about 10 years out from now. So we'll be pushing that and working with our representatives to keep that moving along. And then I have a note from the food pantry that I wanted to share with everyone tonight. This is from Terry Naff, who runs the D300 food pantry. She said, Amber and Village trustees, a huge thanks to all of you for selecting our food pantry to receive the generous donation for the CPKC Railroad. We also scored big with almost $1,000 in cash and bins of food from our Pingree Grove neighbors. The 4 pallets from Flood Brothers were an extra special gift. A happy holidays to all. Just said I'd share that tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Andy.
And don't have a lot to update. Just wanted to remind everyone that our first meeting in January is canceled. So our next board meeting will be January 21st, which is a Tuesday, because that Monday is MLK Day and the village is closed. And with that, I hope everyone has a good holiday season and enjoy the break.
Okay, Chief, what do you have for us tonight?
I'm actually very excited to speak tonight. I promise it will not be long. I wanted to get everyone an update on our hiring. It looks like we will be hiring 2 officers that are pre-certified, and we'll be sending 2 officers to the academy for a total of 4 officers that will start on the 30th of this month. They will 2 will start the academy the following week on that Monday, which is the 6th. 2 officers that do not have to go to the academy will take the next 16 weeks to go through the internal field training officer program. And then by the time they come out, the people from the academy will be coming out of their 16-week program. By this time next year, we should have at least 18 officers, which would put us at par with what we expected. So the department is finally growing. We apologize for the delay, but unfortunately, there are many steps that have to be taken, and it is not a smooth road. But it looks like we will be hiring an additional 4 people, which I plan to bring in front of the board for a quick swearing-in ceremony on the 21st. We'll do them all at one time, so it won't be individual. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I have just curiosity. When they go to the academy, they say, okay, the academy starts January 6th, next one starts 16 weeks later? Or if you had a guy in February, could he start?
We'd have to use a different academy if there was one available. Unfortunately, it looks like there's multiple academies all starting at the same time, which is the start of the year. The only one that is not is the State Police Academy, which starts in February. The other surrounding areas, there's only 4 schools that we can go to. Chicago stopped allowing these suburbs to come out to their academy, and same with Cook County. There are a couple other smaller academies that we can use, but they all start at the same time. It is a 16-week program. They will end about midway through August or the end of August. They will then pick up again in July. There is a little bit of a break. But with luck, we'll get everyone through and we won't have to send anyone through the academy for quite some time.
This is great news. Thank you, Chris. All right, Albert.
Okay, so the staff had our first budget meeting. As the board approved the new audit service. Yeah, we're done with audit. Now it's budget time. So we had our first meeting as staff. Our first departmental meetings will start the first week of January after the holidays. We'll be meeting with each department head to go over their justifications for the new budget year. Also wanted to inform the board that there's no rest for the weary in the finance department as everybody gets ready for the holidays. We'll be getting 1099s ready, W-2s ready. So by the time we meet again next time, every employee in the village will have their W-2s and they'll be ready to go to file their taxes. Other than that, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a healthy and happy New Year.
Thank you, Albert. Nick, do you have anything for us?
Just wanted to bring to people's attention, tomorrow morning, representatives from SB Friedman, who we contracted to do our TIF eligibility study, will be initiating their field work in the Heritage District. Already alerted police staff. So if you're in the Heritage District and you see people walking around and taking pictures, it's probably SB Friedman. Feel free to call the police, but they've been alerted as well. But we're excited to get that TIF eligibility study going. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, Pat?
We did our second salting of the year on Saturday night. The weather changed, the forecast didn't quite occur as the weatherman predicted, and we had ice on roads just out of an abundance of caution. We went out and salted. The cul-de-sacs were very slippery. The sides of the roads were very icy. There was patches everywhere. We were able to get through that. Based on the conversations that I heard tonight from everyone, I will put in my budget a path extension from Ryan King Road down to Boathouse. I think it's probably a bike path, so you can do the loop there. We looked at neighborhood 33. We're doing something there for them. I think we can't wait for that property to develop. So I'll see what it'll cost and put that in the budget. You guys can talk about it later, but we really shouldn't have people walking on the roads there. And there already is a crossing, but maybe that's something to look at. Other than that, we're just, spent today, taking the trucks down and maintaining them so that they're ready for the next storm. I will be on vacation, starting Friday for the next 2 weeks. Jason is in charge while I'm gone.
All right, thank you, Pat. And Seth?
Nothing really to report. Just wanted to kind of just give a little bit of backing to the pay application that was approved at tonight's meeting. You'll see that obviously that was a pretty large one. Most of that has to do with the several large pieces of equipment coming in for the waste plant, including process valves, some pumps and blowers. So high dollar items that have, been procured. And then you may see over the holidays that, the amount of construction activity is going to be probably a little bit less than standard. However, they are looking to continue working on the walls on structure 10, conduits in structure 105, and they're going to be looking to pour the pad for the emergency generator as well.
Good news. All right, thank you. Michael, you got anything for us?
Unless there's any questions for me, just enjoy the holidays. Be aware of pedestrians, especially our president and trustee who may be walking on right of way. That's all.
Laura, do you have anything for us?
I just wanted to say thanks to the homes that participated in our first annual Heritage Holiday Home Decorating Contest. 2 winners were selected for the decor that they registered for. And if you would like to see their homes, they're on our village website and our Facebook page. Thank you.
Good news. Okay. All right. Fire, do you have anything for us tonight? Okay. Then does anyone have any old or new business? Okay.
I would just like to agree with Pat that we should look at putting a path in on the north side of Heritage. Give them kids somewhere to ride their bikes on and that. And maybe get your friend D.R. Horton to pitch in some money towards that since he developed that area.
Oh, Ed. That would be a Christmas miracle, wouldn't it?
Maybe talk to Elgin.
There's no other business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Pini,
Yes.
trustee Tarnow,
Yes.
trustee Hall,
Yes.
trustee Carey,
Yes.
trustee Hay,
Yes.
trustee Hirschbein.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Motion.